The transmission began, as most disasters do, with laughter. On screen, a trio of Galactic Empire patrol officers, scaled, smug, and oblivious, stood around a group of human children no older than 10. One child had their arms crossed, another was chewing bubblegum with theatrical boredom, and a third was quietly assembling what looked suspiciously like a drone using scrap parts from the patrol ship. The alien officer, Commander Dreval, grinned at the central holocom. "Citizens of the Empire," he said, chest puffed, "we have detained this band of primitive offspring trespassing in Sector 7 Beta. They claim to be on an exploratory education mission. With crayons." Snickers echoed through the Galactic Broadcast Command. Even the Emperor's tail curled in amusement from his throne. "And what are you going to do with them?" came a sarcastic call from the press pit. "We'll send them to one of our minor holding facilities. Perhaps they'll learn respect behind an energy field." More laughter. And then the screen cut. A few thousand light years away, deep beneath the Antarctic crust, inside the United Nations Galactic Security Bunker, the atmosphere could not have been more different. Agent Kellerman leaned forward, squinting at the paused frame on his display. Are they actually mocking crayons?" "Yes," said Director Juno, her voice cool. She tapped her stylus against her teeth. "They took a group of Earth's children from a United School Program expedition. Unarmed. Unprovoked." "They know what they just did?" Kellerman asked. "Clearly not," Juno replied and stood. "Wake him." Across the bunker, a heavy steel door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit chamber. Inside sat a man, legs up on the desk, whittling a piece of wood with a small blade. The only sound in the room was the shoo of carved cedar falling into curls. "Ronald Reed," said Juno. He didn't look up. "We've got a rule number 1 violation." He still didn't look up. Juno dropped a photo onto the table. Ronald's knife paused. His eyes flicked to the image, a little girl with untamed curls and a crooked smile. She was holding up a rock labeled Martian rock, not edible. Ronald sighed. The blade disappeared into his sleeve. He leaned back, and for a moment, just a moment, something old and dangerous passed across his face like a shadow on still water. "Get my boots," he said. By the time the Galactic Council realized a human envoy had requested a special diplomatic session, Ronald was already en route. No military escort. No fleet. Just him, a weathered briefcase, and a custom Earth diplomat uniform that didn't quite hide the combat scars or the dog tags. He arrived with a handshake and a smile. "Afternoon, folks," he said as he stepped onto the crystalline floor of the Empire's high chamber. "Heard there's been a bit of a misunderstanding." The guards raised their rifles. Ronald raised a paper bag. "Brought lunch," he said. "Barbecue. Carolina style. Sauces sweet with a kick, like my cousin Loretta, but you don't want to get her mad either." They scanned the bag. It was meat. Just meat. He passed out sandwiches. Nobody dared bite. Counselor Threxvar, the Empire's representative, sniffed the sandwich suspiciously. "We were told Earth would be sending a delegation." "Well," Ronald said, settling into the chair at the edge of the crescent-shaped chamber, "I'm the warm-up act. They send me when talking politely is still an option." "You expect us to take this seriously?" Threxvar sneered. "I expect you to start checking your escape routes," Ronald replied, adjusting his cuff. Ronald didn't look like a warrior. That's what made him effective. He looked like someone's uncle, the kind who fixed motorcycles on weekends and brought fireworks to barbecues even when they were illegal. But behind that was a mind that had once planned a planetary siege using nothing but 3 satellites, 1 weather balloon, and a hacked alien children's show broadcast. "We don't negotiate with threats," the counselor snapped. "Neither do we," Ronald replied, smiling. "But we're real friendly until you touch our kids." Counselor Threxvar curled his lips. They were trespassing. The law. "Your law," Ronald cut in gently, "doesn't apply to children on a peaceful science mission. They were in a neutral sector. You know that." "I know that. And you're hoping I won't push." He leaned forward, voice quieter now. "But here's the thing, sir. Pushing is what I do when someone thinks they're bigger than they are." There was silence. Counselor Tilvani, A spindly ambassador from the Lorellan Accord raised a shimmering appendage. Is this really necessary? Surely Earth wouldn't overreact to a detention. Ronald opened his briefcase, took out a folder labeled Contingency Omega. "Y'all heard of Yellowstone?" he asked casually. "Big caldera on Earth. Real pretty. Geysers, hot springs, all that. Now imagine if someone threatened to throw your kids into it." The Lorellan ambassador blinked. "That's how this feels to us. You're comparing your children to sacred land." "I'm saying your prison cell is the caldera," Ronald said. "And Earth is the tectonic plate getting twitchy." The doors opened. A pair of security bots wheeled in, dragging the prisoners. The children were fine. A bit annoyed, perhaps, one of them still clutching her box of crayons. The boy was now balancing a chair on one foot and explaining gravity to his jailer. "Ah," Ronald said, standing. "There they are. Look at that. No trauma. Not yet, anyway." The children saw him and ran forward. "Uncle Ronald," the girl with the curls yelled. "Y'all been good?" he asked, crouching. "Nobody punched anybody unless they had it coming?" The boy shrugged. "I taught the droid math. I think it's rethinking its existence." "Well done." Counselor Threxbar gestured. "They're free to go." "I know," Ronald said. "But this ain't about release. This is about acknowledgement." "Of what?" "That you broke the only rule we put up when we joined the council," Ronald said, stepping forward now, voice rising just slightly. "We didn't ask for much. We didn't care about your wars, your taxes, your bureaucracy. We said one thing: don't touch the kids." He let it hang. "Humanity," he continued, "has survived being hunted, enslaved, nuked, starved, gassed, frozen, and burned. We endured wars, plagues, and worse. But the one thing we do not tolerate is someone laying hands on our young." He looked around, calm and thunderous. "Do you understand?" Threxvar's voice faltered. "We acted under assumption." Ronald turned. "Dreval." The arresting officer stiffened. "You got a daughter?" Ronald asked. The lizard blinked. "Why, yes." Ronald nodded. "Think real hard what you'd do if someone dragged her off a school bus. Then picture me as the dad." Dreval turned pale green. The children boarded the ship back to Earth with hugs, giggles, and half-finished jokes. Ronald lingered. Tilvani watched him warily. "Is it over?" Ronald smiled. "Depends. If nobody else touches Earth's children, then yes. If not, well, let's just say the next guy won't bring sandwiches." He stepped onto the ramp, paused. "Oh, and counselor," he said, turning back. "Might want to check your storage sectors. Looks like someone's been seeding, let's call them contingency surprises." "We're good at that." He winked, then vanished into the ship. As the door sealed, the council sat frozen. After a moment, Tilvani whispered to Threxvar. We mocked their sentimentality. Threxvar nodded slowly, throat dry. But it was camouflage. Above the station, the Earth vessel warped out of orbit, leaving only silence in its wake, and the echo of a promise unspoken. "You came for our children. Now you'll see what that unleashes." The diplomatic suite was far too elegant for what was coming. Polished obsidian floors, delicate blue light vines curled along the vaulted ceilings, and a mural of interstellar unity stretching 20 meters in either direction. None of it could soften what sat in the middle of the room, a round negotiation table, shaped like a halo. And in the one human seat, Ronald Reed, Earth's envoy and inconvenient truth, slowly unwrapped a sandwich. "You brought food again?" asked Admiral Volark of the Empire, arms folded, mandibles twitching. "Of course," Ronald replied, cheerful. "Wouldn't want to go to war on an empty stomach. This here's brisket. Smoked. 12 hours. Wood from a cherry tree my grandfather chopped down in '62. He slid the wrapped half across the table. Volark didn't move. Ronald grinned and bit into his half. Tender. Like consequences. The table was surrounded by high-ranking figures from 12 galactic civilizations. Not all were enemies. Not all were friends. Most were just cautious. But all of them now had one thing in common: watching Earth's representative with a growing sense of unease. "Your theatrics are noted," came the rasp of Counselor Dorthel from the Ziltran Confederacy. But this is a matter of legal adjudication. The children were released. And yet here I am, Ronald said, dabbing his mouth with a cloth napkin. See, I'm not here because of what you did. I'm here because of what you thought you could get away with. Ambassador Tilvani interjected smoothly. Perhaps we misunderstood the cultural implications. Oh, you understood just fine, Ronald said, still smiling, still warm. You thought Earth was small, that our laws were quaint, that our warning, don't touch the kids, was a ceremonial superstition. He leaned forward. The light in his eyes shifted. It wasn't. Silence stretched across the chamber. A few aliens exchanged glances. A diplomat from the Dresch Alliance quietly shut off her data screen. A representative from the Ziwa-Ren collective scratched at his neck plates. Tilvana's voice remained pleasant. Then, let us understand it better. Earth's obsession with its young. How does it justify deploying psychological threats across neutral sectors? Ronald blinked. Ma'am, Earth didn't send threats. We sent cookies. Little care packages. You opened them. Didn't like the encryption inside. Huh? Counselor Dorthel frowned. What encryption? Ronald tilted his head. Guess your translation filters don't pick up sarcasm. He slid a data pad across the table. It flickered to life with a video. The footage showed a galactic border station, Empire-controlled. In the mess hall, an Earth diplomat hands a smiling alien a silver tin. Inside, cookies. Real Earth cookies. Within an hour, the station's AI had shut down. Within 2, its comms were hijacked by a child's lullaby in 7 Earth languages. Within 4, the words Operation Sandman activated blinked across every terminal. Ronald tapped the screen. That was a test. A polite one. Volark's voice was rigid. You're testing our responses? We're gauging your respect, Ronald replied. And let me tell you something real simple. When Earth smiles and offers gifts, you better hope we're in a generous mood. Another video began to play, this time from a border moon. An Earth-led science team was seen doing ecological research. Their equipment? Outdated by galactic standards. Analog. Laughable. Yet a storm appeared from nowhere. Not weather, interference. Military grade. And when the Empire moved to intercept, their dreadnoughts' targeting systems began projecting children's handwriting on their screens. Please don't hurt the frogs. The targeting failed. The ship's engine rebooted into Morse code. Ronald glanced up. One of the kids wrote that. You might have called her a tourist. Her mom calls her a tactical prodigy. Dorthel's voice faltered. You're saying these children were agents? No, Ronald said. I'm saying they're children. But they were born on Earth. And that makes them statistically more likely to be smarter, meaner, and more emotionally layered than your average Star Admiral. They weren't trained. They're just ours. He paused to finish his brisket. And you made them cry. Tilvana straightened. You can't hold the entire Galactic Empire responsible for one overstep. Oh, but I can, Ronald said quietly. Because when humans mess up, we apologize. We overcorrect. But when someone messes with us and doesn't take responsibility, well, we assume it's war. War is not declared over feelings. No, Ronald agreed, standing slowly, but wars are won with feelings. And Earth's got some very strong ones about what you did. He opened a second folder. Inside was a list of names. No ranks. Just names. Some crossed out in red. Every name here is someone responsible for the children's detainment. Or someone who laughed at it. Or someone who funded it. We're reallocating them. Volark stood. That's assassination. No, Admiral, Ronald said. It's deconstruction. Of systems. Of loyalties. Of regimes. Nobody's dead. Yet. But by the time this list is done, none of them will hold the same power. We'll make sure of it. Dorthel hissed. This is blackmail. Blackmail, Ronald repeated. Sir, this is preschool diplomacy. We've not even started being scary. The door to the chamber slid open. A small drone hovered in silently. It displayed a hologram, a child's drawing. A stick figure alien with X's for eyes. A human stick figure standing beside it holding hands with a smiley faced child. In crayon, the caption read, My uncle said never be mean. But sometimes you gotta teach 'em. Volark looked genuinely ill. This is psychological warfare. No, Ronald said, pocketing the drawing. It's art. And if it makes you nervous, maybe you're on the wrong side of it. The atmosphere changed. Aliens who had once smirked at Earth's naivety now exchanged guarded, fearful glances. The absurd had become threatening. The smiles were masks. The sandwiches were smokescreens. And the envoy, who looked like a bored schoolteacher, he was holding the galaxy by the throat and hadn't even raised his voice. Ronald walked slowly toward the center of the room. You know, when I was a kid, I had this toy. Plastic dinosaur. Couldn't have been taller than my knee. But I loved that thing. Some kid at school took it. Just snatched it. My mama? She didn't go yell at anyone. Didn't file a complaint. She walked straight into that kid's house and asked for tea. By the time she left, the whole family had apologized. I had my dinosaur back, and somehow I got a new toy and the kids' Halloween candy. He chuckled. My point is, humans don't escalate with anger. We escalate with precision. Dorthel rubbed his temples. What are your demands? Ronald turned slowly. Oh, I don't have demands. I have standards. And Earth's already moved ahead. See, while we've been chatting, 27 Earth envoys across the outer sectors have been handing out care packages. Cookies. Toys. First aid kits. You think that's cute? He looked around the room. No one answered. Each one comes with embedded micro-influence protocols. Harmless. Until you try something again. Then, your entire economic framework starts quoting Dr. Seuss poems mid-transaction. Or your defense system asks philosophical riddles instead of firing. You're bluffing, Volark whispered. Ronald turned, his smile fading. We bluffed in the 20th century. Now, we plan. A sudden tremor shook the chamber. Alarms flickered. A galactic aide rushed in, voice shaking. Sir, the Zyrian gate just shut down. Entire quadrants going dark. Ronald raised a brow. Huh. Wonder if that's the one where the little girl reprogrammed the gate AI to respond only to knock-knock jokes. Told y'all to laugh more. Tilvana stood, voice grave. Are you saying Earth is waging silent war? No, ma'am, Ronald said. I'm saying Earth is teaching a lesson. Silent wars are messy. This is educational reform. Another tremor. Another alarm. Ronald sighed and straightened his jacket. Look, this doesn't need to spiral. Just print a public apology. Return the children's personal effects. And add one line to the Galactic Charter. He held up a card. Printed on plain paper. Article 7, Clause 1. Do not touch Earth's children. Tilvani took it, hands trembling. If you do that, Ronald said, heading for the exit, we'll let it slide. He paused at the door. Looked back. Oh. And don't think of this as Earth being petty. Think of it as Earth being parental. He vanished down the corridor. In his wake, the chamber sat stunned. The air smelled faintly of cherrywood smoke and unease. A new message pinged across every delegate's personal device. From UNGS Interstellar Strategy Division. Subject: Negotiation successful, Phase 1. Attachment: Operation Timeout initiated. And beneath it, in crude hand-drawn lettering, a note. If you hurt our cubs, we hunt in packs. It began with silence. Not the respectful, diplomatic silence of an uneasy truce, but the kind of silence that creeps in just before something shatters. High Admiral Volark stood in front of the Empire's war room holomap, staring as system after system began blinking red. It's sabotage, hissed the engineer beside him. Must be. No, Volark muttered, tail stiff, eyes wide. It's them. In the center of the map, one human word now pulsed in red across Sector 12. Recalibrating. The systems weren't offline. They were adapting, rewriting protocols, reordering command hierarchies. And worst of all, they were doing it without a single Earthship present. Across the galaxy, children's drawings began appearing on high-clearance terminals. In one, a massive alien warship was being licked by a cartoonish Earth puppy. The ship bore the word invincible. In the next panel, the puppy burped. The ship was gone. It was meant to be funny. It wasn't. On Earth, Ronald Reed sipped lukewarm diner coffee in a station orbiting the moon. No fanfare. No entourage. Just him, a tablet, and a quiet whistling tune from a 1950 sitcom. Agent Kellerman approached, holding a secure tablet. "They're panicking," Kellerman said. "Good," Ronald replied, flipping a page in the paperback novel he wasn't actually reading. "That means they finally understand the language." Kellerman sat down. "One of their admirals issued a private demand. Wants to know why we're escalating." Ronald stirred cream into his cup. "Because we weren't negotiating. They still think we are." "Then we've done our job," Ronald said. "You don't teach an apex predator that it's top of the food chain by growling louder. You teach it by staying quiet while you dig the pit." Kellerman hesitated. "You think we've dug it deep enough?" Ronald glanced up, and in that glance was the full weight of Earth's history, its revolutions, its betrayals, its hard-won survival. "We didn't dig a pit," he said. "We built a mirror. Now they get to look in it." Meanwhile, in a remote galactic sector, Ambassador Tilvani stood aboard the Council cruiser Aurora's Voice, watching as her personal files began to unravel. Not delete, not encrypt, unravel. Like someone had rewritten her entire diplomatic history into a choose-your-own-adventure story authored by a hyperactive toddler. One line read, "Tilvani goes to the Peace Summit. Does she A. Give a hug, B. Set fire to the chairs, or C. Apologize to the Earthlings with a fruit basket?" "Make a stop," she whispered to her AI. "I cannot," the voice replied, glitching. "You violated rule number 1. Enjoy the consequences." The consequences were cascading. On a mining colony once under Empire control, the machines had stopped responding to local commands. Instead, they operated with eerie precision, rerouting mineral shipments to Earth-controlled outposts under the designation Galactic Child Fund. When the miners protested, the system replied, "Think of the children." Far away, aboard the Empire's flagship Valor and Claw, Admiral Korath, a brutalist tactician with a record soaked in conquest, stood before a prison cell. Inside were 3 of the Earth children who'd been detained earlier. They weren't crying. They weren't scared. They were playing chess. The boy looked up. "You're the one who ordered our capture, huh?" Korath grunted. "You know," the boy continued, "my dad says chess is just battlefield math with manners. Want a lesson?" Korath didn't respond. The girl beside the boy leaned forward, hands stained with marker ink. "We already know your next moves," she said. "Want to know how?" Korath stared at her. "Because you do what all bullies do," she said sweetly. "You think being louder makes you smarter." Behind her, the 3rd child had somehow reprogrammed a sanitation bot to play Beethoven. "You can't outsmart the species that built entire strategies around bedtime stories," the boy added. "You're bluffing," Korath spat. But he wasn't. On Earth, Task Force Athena had been activated. A misnomer, really. It wasn't a task force, it was a mindset. It was the plan that didn't need orders because it was built into the culture. Every diplomat was a shadow. Every researcher a silent weapon. Every child a message. A message the Empire never understood until too late. Admiral Korath stormed into his war room growling. "Begin countermeasures. Block Earth's information grid. Cut off their outposts. Seal the trade lines." "Yes, sir," the officer replied. They tried. And failed. The trade lines were already controlled by private Earth shipping companies. Ones that had been quietly acquiring small ports and underperforming hubs for years. The moment the order went out, Earth's logistics system rerouted thousands of tons of supplies. To orphanages. Alien orphanages. With handwritten notes attached. "We still believe in better." Some of the notes included drawings. Smiley faces. Rainbows. One showed an alien and a human sharing a sandwich. Galactic morale began to fracture. You couldn't fight propaganda that looked like birthday cards. And somewhere in the middle of this chaos, a single alien officer, Dreval, the original commander who detained the children, sat alone in a cell, clutching a crayon. Not because he'd gone mad. Because it was the only thing in his cell that worked. Every screen was black. Every command he gave was ignored. Except one. Whenever he drew something with the crayon, it happened. Delayed. Stylized. But it happened. He'd drawn a flower. One sprouted in the hallway. He'd drawn a frown on his own face. The lights dimmed. He wasn't imprisoned. He was being taught. Back at the council core, Ronald Reed walked alone through the promenade of Unity Square, hands in pockets, chewing gum like a man on vacation. Alien civilians passed him and quickly looked away. He paused by a fountain and pulled out a photo. A group shot. The Earth kids who had been detained. They were smiling. Not a forced smile. Not post-crisis relief. The kind of smile that came from knowing you were part of something bigger than fear. "Mr. Reed," came Tilvana's voice behind him. "We need to talk." He turned. "If you're here to bargain, I already used my sandwich." "This is beyond bargaining," she said. "The Empire's losing control. Your people are weaponizing culture." Ronald smiled gently. "We've always done that. Ever heard of Elvis?" Tilvana's mouth tightened. This could collapse the entire structure of the galactic system. "Maybe it needs to," he said. She hesitated. "You planned this." "No," Ronald said. "We prepared for it. We hoped you wouldn't force our hand. You still might not." "You mean there's still a way out?" "There's always a way out," Ronald said, stepping closer. "You just have to be willing to say one sentence." Tilvani waited. Ronald handed her a small card. "We're sorry. We broke rule number 1. She read it. Swallowed. "And that's enough?" "No," Ronald said. "But it's a start." He walked away, leaving her standing beneath the Tower of Unity, staring at the card as if it weighed 100 tons. Elsewhere, a young technician aboard the Empire's data nexus tried to purge human influence from a system. She scrubbed every database, formatted servers, even shut down the mainframe. Then she rebooted it. It opened with a cheerful jingle and a child's voice saying, "Hi there. Let's learn about respect today." And the screen flashed. Lesson 1, don't kidnap Earth kids. Lesson 2, if you did, apologize. Lesson 3, don't make us go to Lesson 4. Her hand trembled as she reached for the power switch. But there was no power switch. Only crayons. Across the galaxy, ambassadors met in panic. Armies postured. Treaties unraveled. But Earth remained calm. No fleets were launched. No shots fired. No threats broadcasted. Because they didn't need to. Fear had done the broadcasting for them. And at the center of it all, Ronald Reed filed a report. 1 sentence long. They thought we were still negotiating. Then he picked up his phone and dialed a secure line. "It's done," he said. A voice on the other end replied, "Confirmed. Phase 3. Ronald smiled, slow and quiet. "Let's teach them what happens when you raise warriors with lullabies." The broadcast crackled to life without warning. Across Galactic Empire territories, every holoscreen, data tablet, and comm panel flickered. Military bunkers, trade hubs, even prison satellites paused as a single image overtook their systems. A quiet living room on Earth. A woman sat in an armchair, knitting. Her voice was calm, with the soft cadence of a bedtime story. "I don't know much about your kind," she said, "but I know what it means to lose something precious." She looked up. Her eyes were sharp. "You took our children." Then the screen faded to black. But not before one final line whispered out, "We're coming." Admiral Volark stood at the edge of the Imperial command chamber, mandibles clenched so tight they creaked. The lights above flickered red as warnings poured in, localized blackouts, data worms, failed drone patrols. "We can't isolate their interference," an officer shouted. "It's not centralized, it's cultural. It's embedded in our own systems now." Volark turned sharply. "Cultural." The technician nodded, terrified. "They use stories, music, rituals, their own families. Earth's strategic backbone isn't military, it's generational." "Then burn it out," Volark growled. "All of it." But it was already too late. Earth's counteroffensive had never been about force. It had always been about truth, made loud. Now it roared through the Empire like a tidal wave of fury, grief, and genius wrapped in affection. Operation PDA had begun. On the outer rim of Sector Graydon X, an Empire observation base powered down, then powered up again. But all screens were now running home surveillance footage. Fathers reading bedtime stories. Mothers adjusting tiny backpacks. A group of veterans handing lemonade to school children. On loop. With every pass, the enemy's resolve chipped further. Then came the next phase. At 0300 hours, Earth's diplomatic fleet did not arrive with warships. Instead, 22 unarmed transports emerged from hyperspace, each carrying civilians. Except they weren't civilians. They were parents, former special forces, retired agents, operatives who'd once led Black Ops missions in gravity wells and asteroid belts. All now dressed in flannel shirts, cargo pants, and PDA hoodies that read, "You mess with one, you mess with all." Ronald Reed stepped off the lead shuttle in dusty boots and a perfectly pressed blazer. He held no weapon, no formal document, only a plain tablet labeled, "Post-War Curriculum." Standing before him was Grand Marshal Zeltar, commander of the Empire's planetary defense grid. "We agreed to talks," Zeltar said coldly. "I'm here," Ronald replied, stretching his back like he'd just woken from a nap. "Let's talk." Zeltar narrowed his eyes. "Where are your ships?" "Your army." Ronald tapped the tablet. "They're teaching third period." "Excuse me." He turned the screen toward the Marshal. On it played a video feed from 20 locations across the Empire, each one showing an Earth parent entering a government office, daycare, or bureaucratic records hall. They weren't attacking. They were reorganizing. One grandmother poured tea for a stunned alien chancellor, while casually rerouting planetary defense funds toward children's hospitals. A soccer mom used Earth's outdated filing systems to expose years of political bribery in a single afternoon. And a kindergarten teacher in Wyoming hacked the Empire's education ministry with nothing but a book of fairy tales and a smile. "They're not warriors," Ronald said. "They're worse. They're guardians with nothing left to lose." Zeltar tried to laugh. "You think sentiment can win a war?" "Not just sentiment," Ronald said. "Grief. You ever fought a parent who's lost a child? No weapon burns hotter than that." At that moment, a coded message flashed across the Marshal's own arm terminal. "Urgent. Interior security breach. Location. Imperial Bloodline Registry." He opened it. Inside was a photo. One of the detained Earth girls, smiling, holding a lollipop, standing beside the now-defunct data core of the Empire's Heritage Vault. A handwritten note was taped to the main console. "Next time, don't delete birthdays." Zeltar's hand shook. "You wouldn't." "Already did," Ronald said. "All your lineage records, all your inheritance data, gone. Replaced with poetry. Earth poetry. You're criminals." "We're parents," Ronald replied, quiet now. "And you took our cubs." In an underground bunker beneath Terra, for Prime, Admiral Korath finally snapped. "Launch the failsafe," he barked. "But sir." "Do it." A single dreadnought, the Vortex Maw, lit its reactors and charged its solar fusion cannon. It fired once, at an Earth humanitarian outpost orbiting Gliese 914, and missed, intentionally. What returned was silence, then laughter. The kind of low, slow, spine-chilling chuckle that doesn't sound angry, it sounds amused. The dreadnought's internal comms activated on their own. A child's voice spoke. "I see you." The ship exploded from the inside. Later reports said the entire crew had received personalized bedtime stories injected directly into their neural implants seconds before the reactor meltdown. Most of them cried. Some died smiling. Korath never issued another order. And across the Empire, once proud admirals resigned in silence. Some defected. Others sent letters. One simply wrote, "I made a child cry. I do not deserve to wear this uniform." Back on Unity Station, Ronald stood before the Galactic Council. Only a third of the seats were filled. The rest were empty, delegates too ashamed to return. The remaining few stared at him, visibly shaken. "You broke rule number 1, he said. "And still, Earth didn't destroy you. We didn't glass your worlds. We didn't unleash our fleets." He paced slowly, calm but crackling with fury beneath the surface. "We reminded you. Gently at first, then firmly, then creatively. And now, He placed a small box on the table. It opened. Inside was a pacifier. Clean. Unused. This is what you lost sight of. That behind every Earth flag is a family. That our greatest strength was never our weapons. It was our will to protect those smaller than us. Counselor Dorthel trembled. Then what do you demand? Ronald leaned in. An apology. In writing. Signed by every government that stood by when the children were taken. That's all. Oh no, Ronald said with a grin. Also, you're funding the largest education initiative in galactic history. It'll be run by humans. Taught by humans. And every graduate will know exactly what happens when you mess with Earth. He stood. And the first lesson, he added, walking away. Don't touch the cubs. That afternoon, across 5 star systems, the skies filled not with warships, but with drones delivering crates of school supplies, Earth novels, and digital archives labeled lessons from the PDA. Alien children across the Empire opened them. Inside were toys, books, and a card. We forgive, but we don't forget. Let's be better. On the final page of every book was a single quote. No one wins when the children cry. But Earth never lets them cry alone. And so the Empire changed. Quietly, deeply, irrevocably. It didn't fall from war. It transformed under the pressure of something fiercer. Love armed with strategy. Vengeance wrapped in bedtime stories. And Earth smiling through its teeth. As Ronald Reed returned home, he passed a mural painted across a moon-base wall. A crayon drawing of the galaxy, Earth in the center. Around it, thousands of smaller stars, each with a hand-drawn smile. At the bottom, a message. We only warned you once. And beneath that, rule number 1.